We are now going to, for the balance of the transmission, look at the IRS scandal. And we're going to look at it from within the organization. Again, Joe Bannister heard a radio show back in, 1997 in California. For the next 2 years, he researched it. He was an armed Treasury agent, the type they send out with the IRS to raid your house. And he heard that the IRS collected money for the private Federal Reserve. He heard none of it went to run the country. He heard it was all a fraud, that the elites didn't pay the tax, which is now admitted. And he said, I respect this talk show host. I'm going to go disprove this and then demand to be on the show, basically. I was the first person to go interview him. I went out and interviewed him in California. First person for video. Was, I think at first it was in Media Bypass, or Media Bypass. Did the first interview. And the point is, and that's in one of my documentaries, and then they twice tried to put him in jail. He said, I need a response to this. And they just said, nah, just give us your resignation, just for asking. Now, Sherry Peel Jackson was part of the national ads that were put together by We the People in USA Today. And she was a fraud investigator. She spoke out. They arrested her. And they found a jury to put her in jail. Just absolutely disgusting. She's a former certified public accountant and fraud examiner with 28 years experience in public, private, and governmental accounting. Ms. Jackson conducts basic and advanced financial education seminars and classes across the U.S. She was instructed financial survival classes for various organizations, including private companies, youth groups, and nonprofit groups. She's also a Christian author and speaker. She was thrust in the national spotlight for taking a stand against government fraud and theft and landed in federal prison for 3 years. While behind bars, Ms. Jackson experienced God like never before. She's such a nice lady. Interviewed her before she was sent to prison. She used her time in prison to form a spiritually intimate relationship with the Lord, minister to other inmates, and write several books and journals. Ms. Jackson's first 4 books are currently being published and will be available for distribution in September 2012. They are coming out on time next month. She formed Wake the People International Ministry to bring a candid Christian worldview to social and political area and to provide a counterpoint to mainstream media. Ms. Jackson lives in Stone Mountain, Georgia, with her husband, Colin. She has 2 grown children. Ms. Jackson lectures on several topics: the deception of dismantling of the U.S. and other countries, the reality of modern-day slavery, the American prison system, the detention, the deterioration of the American backbone, the violation of citizens' rights, the silencing of the church, destruction of the family, the financial crisis, real or created, solutions to our current predicament. SherryPeelJackson.org is the website, SherryPeelJackson.org, and I pre-order a book. It's coming out next month. And when I start getting tears in my eyes when I have somebody on like her, because they put her in prison for no reason, for the truth. And these IRS agents that have come out and are now whistleblowing, they'll end up getting killed or something. I mean, that's how evil this system is, where they're handing out citizens' IDs so they can be set up and have their identity stolen for illegal aliens. I mean, the same government shipping guns to Mexico to blame the Second Amendment. They are so evil. Tell us about your journey, Sherry, at the IRS, when you woke up, what you did, and the fact that they tried to put basically everybody who was in those USA Today full-page ads in prison. Some were sent, some beat it. I mean, you're just modern-day heroes. I mean, you went to prison for 3 years because of your Christian faith not allowing you to be involved in evil. And if more people just stood up like you did, nobody'd have to go to prison. We'd turn this around. But it's people like you that we all stand on your shoulders. Sherry Peel Jackson, I salute your courage. Tell us in the next 3-4 minutes before we go to break about yourself, your journey, your awakening. We'll come back, talk about prison, and then we'll look at the latest IRS fraud from an expert fraud investigator, what's happening. Sherry Peel Jackson, good to have you with us.
Thank you, Alex, for having me on your show. I really appreciate you for everything that you've done. I actually did not learn about the fraud until after I left. I left the IRS in '95 because, as a Christian mother, I felt like I was putting too much time into what was going on outside of the household. So I came home to be Jim Cleaver. And at that point, I guess people felt freer to ask me questions. In the years 1999 and 2000, people were asking a lot of questions about, is this income tax real? And it got to the point where pastors were asking me. So I started trying to do research, found out about the USA Today, the first ad that We the People put out. And within that ad was a challenge, a $50,000 challenge for anybody to prove that Americans, people that work and live within the 50 states, liable for the income tax. So, $50,000 to me, pretty good amount of money. And started doing research, and a couple of weeks later, I was stuck. I still had my codes and regulations and all these things in front of me, but I wasn't finding what I needed to win that $50,000. And the thing that really woke me up and snapped the light on was actually the Federal Reserve being not federal and them collecting $40 million an hour in interest from the American people. And I thought about, wait a minute, this is slavery. So I started digging more and ended up finding out about We the People and Joe Bannister, and everything went on from there.
And then they set you up and threw you in prison.
Yeah, well, I became more than a low-flying gnat at that point, especially the late, great Aaron Russo's movie, America, Freedom, and Fascism. When that came out, I guess that really set them off.
By the way, that was seen by about 50 million people conservatively. That was a big deal.
Great. I was hearing that people over in the Middle East, our soldiers over there, have been seeing the movie. As a matter of fact, when I was in the prison, I got letters from soldiers. They blessed my heart because they are becoming aware of what's really happening here in our country.
Did the jail guards know they had a completely innocent person in there?
Yeah, some of them actually did come up to me sometimes and pull me aside and say, I didn't know you were a celebrity. And, at the little jail houses that I was at and the prison, at least one person every time came up to me and said, I know who you are. So it was interesting. But again, they're locked in a job. They don't want to speak out because they are afraid. The fear in this country is breathtaking, Alex.
That's right, and we've got to get past the fear if we're going to get saved here. It's the fear that lets the evil take over.
That's true. That's true, and I don't know. People don't understand that. But we've gotten in a comfort zone that, unfortunately, is taking the country down.
And it is going down fast. Wow, Sherry Peel Jackson. But I remember later you were in some of the USA Today ads, correct? Because I remember seeing you.
I was, yes.
Yeah, I think they did a whole one just on you.
Yes.
Boy, they came and arrested you for that because the country's so free. Wow. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Alex Jones here with a very important announcement for truth seekers. We've carried a lot of amazing films and books over the years on the online video bookstore at Infowars.com. And out of all the titles we've carried, one stands out because it is just so chillingly convincing. And that's Dreams from My Real Father by Joel Gilbert, available at Infowars.com. This film exposes the fraud that Obama is like nothing I've seen. If you want to know who Obama's real daddy is, this is the film for you. Don't forget, your purchase supports our broadcast and our growing media network. You'll also find at InfoWarsShop.com None Dare Call It Conspiracy by Gary Allen, the book that woke me up. We're also carrying Behind the Green Mask, UN Agenda 21 by Rosa Corey. This book is coffin nails to the globalist takeover. The Greater Good, the most professional and up-to-date film I've ever seen exposing the scourge that is vaccines. These titles and a lot more are all available at InfoWarsShop.com. I know we have police and military holding, but we ran into our guests, so you guys can disconnect if you want and call back when we cover this topic again. I don't want to make you sit there and hold. Now we've shifted out into the IRS that we didn't get until 1913, doesn't run the country, doesn't fund things. It's all a fraud. That's why you hear Google and General Electric don't pay taxes, or they pay like 2-3%, some years nothing. They've all set it up where they're exempt. Okay, this doesn't run the country. All the other taxes do. It's a total fraud, just like all the other Ponzi schemes that are going on. We're going to go back to Sherry Peel Jackson here in a moment and go through the latest scandals, but also what she discovered the IRS really was, what the income tax was, how they set her up, put her in prison. We're going to have Joe Bannister pop in at the bottom of the next hour just to talk about Sherry's case, because they tried to put him in jail twice. He had to get jury trials to beat him. This is over their First Amendment. So pretty amazing, saying their First Amendment's criminal. They put Peter Schiff's father, Irwin Schiff, in prison. He's still in there for writing a book. I mean, listen, they don't like people talking about this because it is a fraud and it's provable. That's coming up. Sherry, this is a short segment. Just wanted to introduce you in this hour. A whole other hour coming up. But briefly, and we'll talk about your case when we come back. What did you discover the income tax was from your own research as a former IRS fraud investigator?
I discovered that it doesn't apply to us. There's a lot of research out there. I think that they make it difficult. I think that they separate things in different books, and the easiest way to deceive people is to hide things in these books, these codes and regulations. So when you research them, the first thing that people do is they get bogged down and they give up. But people like Larkin Rose and Tommy Cryer and Joe Bannister and Davy Kidd and others, they didn't give up. And when you get down to the bottom of it, it's just a gigantic monster with tentacles that is regularly raping us. It's not something that we, as people that live here, should be paying. It's for non-resident aliens and foreign corporations for the privilege of working here. They are the ones that should pay the taxes. Imposts, excises, duties, and tariffs should be paid by other countries. Yet, through some special deals, these other countries are not paying. For instance, from what I understand, countries like China don't have to pay any excises and duties. At least
yeah, so it's really written as a tariff, but then it only applies on us when you're not supposed to apply tariffs to domestic groups. And it's just like the illegal aliens are above the law.
Right, right. So the whole thing is just a big fraud, and people are we're being demoralized. We have God-given rights, and our rights to live and be able to support ourselves and our families have been run over, because if you can tax a man 1%, you can tax him 100%, and he's a slave.
The power to tax is the power to destroy, and our tax policies are set by offshore banks that now brag they've captured the country. Always remember that.
Do you understand how dark it is? How far down the line we are? How late it is?
Sherry Peel Jackson is our guest. She was a former IRS fraud investigator who went into private practice, saw the national challenges to prove that it was applied to American citizens, went and researched it, found out it didn't, and then ended up getting thrown in prison. Sherry, start getting into, well, first let's get into your research. When we come back from break, this is a short segment, long segment coming up. We'll get into your imprisonment and then take some phone calls. But, I mean, what was it like for you when you started investigating it and finding out that the conspiracy theorists were actually the people that were telling the truth?
You know, I didn't look at people as conspiracy theorists in the first place. My father always taught me to be very, very open. So when I started hearing it, I just kind of filed it in the back of my head as something that I should research, at some point. But when so many people started asking me questions about it, and I started seeing information, and yes, I did. One of the women at my church gave me one of Erwin Schiff's books, and I started reading it, and I said, this is making sense. And as I got into it, I saw, with the rabbit hole just started to go deeper and deeper. And I felt like the rug had been taken from under me, just pulled from under me, because we've been living a lie. All that time I was at the IRS thinking, I'm doing this for the country, and these bad people aren't paying their taxes. And before I quit, I started seeing, the damage that the income tax was doing, breaking up families and closing down businesses for people who were just trying to make it and just didn't have the extra resources. So when I saw the research and found out that this was something that was not applicable to us, I started thinking about my own family. My children, they want a nice life, and the Federal Reserve isn't federal, and it's owned by the wealthy banking family, so their children's children never have to work a day in their life. But, my family's slaving away just to make ends meet and to get my children a college education, and that's wrong. And it didn't matter what color people were. It didn't matter what your religion is. It's just this fraud goes way up. They don't care who we are. They don't care what color we are. They just want to keep us down. And that's when I started speaking out. I don't want to be kept down. This is something that does not for anybody, but especially for somebody that has worked hard and always been an upstanding person.
Well, you just hit the nail on the head to interrupt. That's it. I instinctively get upset by people wanting me to not do good. I mean, these are bad people that admit they want to make us all poor so they can control us. These are bad people.
Right, and the control is not for them over us. We're supposed to be in control of ourselves with God at the head. So I had to make a decision whether I was going to be an informed slave or get off the plantation. And I decided that I was going to get off the plantation. I knew that it could come to them going after me. But it was more important for me to sleep at night. And it was more important for me to stop the rape, because if I didn't try to stop the rape, 15 years from now, they were going to be raping my daughter, and I didn't want that.
Exactly. The evil grows, and it doesn't people that live in fear never get it. They're so afraid. Once you stop being afraid and just say, I'm trusting in God, I'm doing the right thing, I'm standing up. Doesn't mean I'm perfect. God help me, I'm weak. But just that's when your life becomes empowered, even if you get persecuted. And I think you imply in your writings that being persecuted's made you even stronger, hasn't it?
Yeah, it really has. You know, that when we get, somebody said we're like tea bags, we really find out who we are when we get put in the hot water. And I've been in the hot water, but one of the things that resonated in my mind as I was reading back when I was studying, it was the Founding Fathers. I read something by Thomas Paine. He said, if there be trouble, let it be in my day, that my child may have peace. That's the way these Founding Fathers thought. And a lot of people say, oh, you shouldn't be doing this. And I said, well, if the Founding Fathers didn't do what they did, then you'd still be under King George, and I'd still
stay there. Stay there. Come back and repeat that and expand on that. That's right.
Right.
And
I mean, this is something that I have to go to sleep at night, and I couldn't go to sleep knowing what I know and knowing that I was leaving my children this rolling snowball down the hill. I had to do something.
Everything we said came true. Everything we've done has been right.
Last year, the Department of Education began SWAT teaming people that they said hadn't paid their college loans. Of course, statutorily, it's not illegal, and they didn't statutorily have the power to have a SWAT team, but who cares? Just do what you want. And we have 1.4 billion rounds, 250 million last year, 450 million this year, another 750 million rounds. This just came out this weekend, purchased by the Department of Homeland Security of 40 caliber and other calibers. The story up at Infowars.com. And I saw a report a while back where the IRS expanded its special response team with $1.2 billion of weapons and training so they can have more of them raiding us and attacking us and going after us. IRS forms SWAT team for tax dodger crackdown. And again, now you get a 4 a.m. raid because the collection agency for the private Federal Reserve says so. It's all about fear. We're not just going to take the wedding ring off your finger now. No due process. Now we're going to send men to kick down your door. And don't you try to be Amish or have a lemonade stand, or don't your kids draw on the chalk. We're going to arrest you. Don't draw on the sidewalk with chalk, you criminal. Sherry Peel Jackson, former political prisoner. She was a IRS criminal investigator. Got out of it to take care of her family, saw national ads by We the People Foundation. This is 10 years ago now, 7, 8 years ago, time flies, and started speaking out against it, so they came in, locked her up. And tell us how they set you up, put you in jail, because they tried that with Joe Bannister twice. It was an armed Treasury agent back when they used the Treasury Department, didn't have their own giant SWAT teams and armored vehicles. And think about it now. They just send the SWAT team to your house. I mean, it's just, wow, these are criminals. So hardcore. But Sherry Peel Jackson joins us. She's got a new book coming out. You can find out more at sherrypeeljackson.org. So you wake up, you see the national challenge, you investigate it, you find out it's collecting money for the private Federal Reserve. Citizens are exempt. It's all a fraud. The ultra-rich all know this. They wrote the law with loopholes. It doesn't run the country. You find this out. You start speaking out. What happened to you?
Originally, nothing. So I started talking about it in 2000, 2001, and that's when we did the ads in the USA Today with We the People. But in 2004, at 7 o'clock in the morning, somebody was knocking wildly at the door. And when I went to the door, I had that little red laser on my head. And I have a little window on each side of my door, and there was this gun pointing at me through this window. And I had been downstairs in my office, so all I had on was a T-shirt. And I'm standing there thinking, okay, these people are screaming at me to open this door. Either I ignore them and they shoot me and my children run downstairs and see me laying in a pool of blood, or I open the door. At that point, my husband came down the stairs because he was upstairs. And I opened the door, and they just rushed in. There were 15 to 20 of them. They were even in the backyard with metal detectors to see if I had some kind of something buried in the backyard. They went all through the house, and they stayed from 7 to 4:45 or so and took 32 boxes and went away. At that point, a couple of attorneys told me that they've taken this information and they're bound to indict you. It didn't happen until 2007, and they didn't indict me. They never did unseal the order because the attorneys tried to get the information. They wouldn't unseal it. So finally, the little sheet came out saying that, we're going to go in her house and we're going to find all these felonies. I think there were 4 or 5 felonies that they said to the judge that they were going to find. So the judge gave them permission to raid us. And they didn't find any felonies because the only thing I was doing is telling people what I learned. I didn't tell people what to do. I didn't tell people to pay a tax or not to pay a tax, or file a tax return or not.
And let's be specific. They tried to arrest a bunch of people, and I've seen them do these SWAT team raids when somebody films the police in Illinois, and they do the raid to show the jury, like, look, they're bad. We SWAT teamed them. So here they are with the lasers. These are childlike people that like to intimidate folks, trying to terrorize you. Now, do they have local SWAT team you, or was it a Department of Treasury or IRS SWAT team there to punish you, to try to scare you, or hopefully make you run so they can shoot you in the back?
That may be, but your savvy listeners are going to pick up on what I'm going to say first. I live in DeKalb County, Georgia. The first 2 people in the door, opening up my door, were 2 DeKalb County police officers. Can you say jurisdiction? Anyway, they opened the door, and then the other ones with the, I think they had IRS on their back, came in, and they just started running all over the house. I don't know what they had been told. They came in like I was some kind of a terrorist with thousands of guns. We don't even have a gun, and No,
it's part of the theater because they're so bad, they have to hyperventilate and run around like you're bad. I mean, it's all part of the bizarreness of this, but please continue.
I honestly think, when I looked into the eyes of some of those agents, that they were very surprised. Whatever they were told was very different from what they found. They found just a Christian family in a house, and they didn't find anything else, and they went away. So in 2007, I was never indicted because I was not brought up on any felony. Because
it was purely intimidation.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. They brought an information forth as opposed to an indictment. An information is what they bring forth when someone is being charged with a misdemeanor. So I was charged with misdemeanor, willful failure to file tax return. However, in order for that to be the case, I would have known that I was liable for the income tax. So since I knew that I wasn't liable, then I was never guilty. However, we have Americans that have been dumbed down to the point where either they have no clue about what's going on, they don't care, or they're in fear. I asked to ask the question. I was not, or my attorney was not able to ask this question, but the question that I wanted to pose to the jury was, would you acquit Ms. Jackson? Would you find her not guilty? How many of you, I take that back, how many of you are too afraid to acquit her for fear that you'll be next? I know in my heart that everybody in that room would have raised their hand. And so the person that has to go to court basically is lost when they first get in the door.
And all because of fear. This is an empire of fear where foreign banks run us through a communist manifesto that says a graduated income tax. That's in the communist manifesto. That's in the planks. In fact, I forget which plank it is, guys. We pull up the 10 planks and I can read it to people. And it just all operates out of fear. I can't tell you how many people in the military, police, you name it, I talk to, they go, oh, we know what you're saying is right, but they'll come get us if we do anything. Look, I'm an example of being bold and God protecting me, but I've had some bad things happen. But, every time I go through the fear, God brings me to the next level. But even if I was killed tomorrow, I wouldn't be mad at God because I understand it's all part of the larger plan. But I just don't get how we became land of the coward, home of the slaves.
We got comfortable. We got very comfortable. We started watching that thing that I call the electronic income reducer, what you might call the television.
Yes.
And for our children, the electronic intellect reducer. We started paying attention to everything that is being said in the media, and we started losing our grip on reality. We started being group thinkers as opposed to individual thinkers, and those of us that think individually are the ones that are being persecuted and prosecuted. there's a saying, I don't know who said it, so I'm not plagiarizing. When the government fears the people, there's liberty, but when the people fear the government, there's tyranny. And that's where we are. That's what I feel. I feel like we're there. The people fear the government.
And now, government, you notice, yearly gets more crazy than the year before. Let's put it up on screen. It's the second plank of the Communist Manifesto, and it says a heavy progressive or graduated income tax. That's the 16th Amendment, 1913, Social Security Act, Joint House Resolution. So there you go, and that's how they do it. Go ahead, Sherry.
The point behind it is the solution is we have got to get the people to understand that whatever life they're living and whatever they're trying to protect is not worth what's going to happen if they don't step out and at least start paying attention to what's going on. Because, a lot of people think that, well, I haven't done anything. I could never be put in prison. Well, nothing could be further from the truth. So that people, whatever they're fearful of, it doesn't matter because they're not protecting themselves. They don't understand that whatever they're doing is not protecting them. It's making them more vulnerable.
That's right. People think cowering helps them.
Yes.
And when a nation of sheep will be ruled by wolves.
Right. And that's where we're going.
And that's where we're going. And
one of the things I wanted to make sure that I didn't forget to say about guns, I know you were talking about guns and the ammunition prior to me coming on, but from what I understand, the felon can't have a gun. And this is becoming prison nation, so we have over 1 million people that have a felony. So for every home that has a felon, there's not supposed to be a gun there?
Oh, there's a lot more than 1 million felons.
Okay. So that's a way of tearing down the Second Amendment by coming in the back door.
Well, no, that's right. You're absolutely right on that front.
People don't even see that. They say, hey, all these people, millions of homes don't have guns or are not supposed to because these people have felons. Well, if you don't have your protection, it's going to be easy for anybody to come and roll over you.
All right, Sherry Peel Jackson, we're going to go to break and come back and talk to Andy and Richard and a whole bunch of others that want to talk to you. And then Joe Bannister is going to pop in a little bit with you. But before you leave, I want to spend some time on just the fact that the IRS now gives people tax ID numbers. They know we're being attached to other Social Security numbers. They're being blocked from going after the illegal aliens and criminal groups, but using it, the person whose credit is clouded to grab their bank account and actually punish the citizen who's been set up for what the illegal did. I mean, so now the IRS is setting people up. And it's actually freaking out the workers, most of which are a bunch of well-meaning socialists that really think the IRS money goes to run the country. There's a story up at Infowars.com that's a big deal. And they do this so much, they plan on wearing us out. I need to tweet this out to everybody. Paul Watson did a story on it. YouTube threatens to terminate account over criticism of copyright policy. It's worse than that, and I'm going to explain it briefly at the start of the next segment. It's my voice, and a pattern has emerged now where they're flagging videos on my channel and others saying my voice, me talking, is copyright. And I did a video about it, and they banned that video and did a community strike and are trying to shut a channel with 230 million views down. I mean, it's just incredible. And again, they advertise as a commons. It's false advertising. So I don't know what to do. Because they can shut us down here, they'll shut us down everywhere. So I'm going to have to fight this. That's all I can say. And I know they're a big monolith. I mean, it's pure NSA. Let's talk to Andy in Hawaii. You're on the air with Sherry Peel Jackson, sent to prison for telling people the IRS was a fraud. We'll get her take on Irwin Schiff. Peter Schiff's father wrote his book, and a judge said, don't publish that book. And then he kept selling it, and they put him in jail. He's still in there. In fact, briefly, we'll go to Andy here in a minute and continue with calls. Joe's only popping in for about 5 minutes. But briefly, Sherry, what's your take on Irwin Schiff? How long is he going to be in prison?
Unfortunately, he may be in there for the rest of his life. Irwin Schiff has put together some great information, and his information is sound, and he definitely researched it. Irwin's very outspoken, and he upsets judges and other people. So they want to make an example of him as they made an example of me and some others. And Irwin's a good guy, and I just, my heart goes out for him and the others that have been put in there for long periods of time.
And we're going to talk to a man coming up who they arrested twice and tried to put in jail, former Treasury agent, for speaking out. I mean, man, they do not want this information getting covered, do they, Sherry?
No, they don't. And the more they try to suppress it, the more it gets out, especially with Aaron Russo's movie. And Joe Bannister, great book that he put out, his trial was a little different, and his trial was one of the first of us agents. And what happened was they let the jury see his video. But by the time they got to me, they'd learned from their mistakes. So a lot of my evidence was suppressed.
Yeah, there's such a cult. They were showing videos of people talking and exposing it, and they thought, well, that's reasonable.
Right. That's what we talked to jurors after Joe. I actually flew out to Joe. Joe and I are very good friends. I flew out to his trial, and I was out in California for 2 weeks. And after the trial was over, we talked to the jury, and they were saying, "This guy's, what he's saying is reasonable, and he's a sound person." Even one of his coworkers was able to testify on his behalf concerning his character.
Well, now they're expanding a $1.2 billion snatch and grab squad at the IRS. It's just really creepy, folks. Okay, Andy, sorry, in Hawaii. Go ahead and make your point. Thanks for holding.
Hi, Alex. Longtime listener and Present Planet TV subscriber, first-time caller. So a big aloha from Hawaii to both of my true American heroes, you and Sherry.
Well, brother, we're not heroes. We're just trying to survive, but thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Hello, Sherry. First of all, I want to let you know you changed my life after seeing Freedom to Fascism. That movie and your testimony in there led me into my research to, after years of, doing my research, I came to find the same thing that you found, that there is no law. And your video, your parts in Freedom to Fascism did change my life. Second, I want to tell you my story briefly. After I did some research like you did, I started signing up for the tax honesty movement, things like that. So just all the callers out there, this is so real that you got to be careful. They came at me with the club and pretty much claimed that I had owed them $40,000 when in fact I didn't. So short story, after about $10,000 in attorney's fees, they said, "Oh, sorry, Andy, you only owe us $3,900. So this is the typical stuff that I've learned from the IRS.
No. Listen. They knowingly give illegals under orders tax IDs, and then they let them use them in citizens' names, and then they come, that's the rest of the story, and take the citizen's bank account and refunds. I mean, it's not enough now. They're now using illegals to set up citizens. So this is a criminal organization that is now kicking all the useful idiots out and converting to pure mafia criminality. Because before they operated in ignorance, oh, we got to keep these tax cheaters in line. Oh, we'll break a few eggs. Oh, it'll keep the... Now they know it all goes to offshore banks. So all the old guards being thrown out, and just like TSA, they're bringing in actual criminals. Like a lot of the big head TSA people is turning out are pedophiles. And they hired the head of Penn State who helped cover up to now be in a special Homeland Security position. So secret they won't say. My word is it's over TSA rollout in all places, the streets of America. But that's in the Washington Post. SherryPillJackson.org is our guest. We'll also tell you about her book. Pre-order now, but it's going to come out next month. Definitely support her and support the First Amendment. Does it make her crazy that she discovered foreign banks took over in 1913 and have now expanded their control down to the local level? Does that make me crazy? Well, possibly. They tried to put you in prison multiple times for your free speech as a former armed Treasury agent who found out the IRS was a fraud and the income tax was a fraud. And you just started speaking out, so they arrested you. That was back in the late 90s, and then they arrested you a few years later because you were in national TV ads and radio and print. So they went after your speech. They SWAT teamed her later and put her in jail. Why do you think I'm still on air, Joe? I don't mean to spring that question on you. I wanted you to come on and talk about Sherry, but all this is coming to a head. They tried to put you in prison. They put her in prison. They put others in prison. Why am I still alive? Why am I not in prison?
Well, exposure is a double-edged sword, but I pursued it, as did Sherry and anybody that's doing the right thing. You definitely want to get exposure, and you've gotten it, and you deserve it. And you've helped other people to get exposure. I truly believe that people like you, Alec, have kept us at least safer than we would have been, if not entirely safe. So, we all have our hats off to you for doing that.
No. I mean, I wasn't even asking. I mean, I know they don't want to kill me because it'll underline everything I said to turn me into a martyr. And I also know God's in control. But I still, from the death threats years ago and physically being attacked and IRS stuff, now it's like dead silence. I mean, they try to censor me and stuff, and White House control groups say they want me shut down. But, I mean, I think this shows they're not in complete control as well. I mean, I'm asking, why do you think I'm still around? Just the exposure?
Yeah, exposure. I mean, there's an Alex Jones room, I can guarantee you, or at least a room that handles people that are, very much in the public eye. And if they could find something to trip you up and discredit you, they probably would. But again, the exposure, I think you're just light years ahead of them. You and your crew are light years ahead of them because they are still bureaucrats. I heard Max Kaiser's talking on your show yesterday about how many weeks the Europeans take vacation. So you're not going to expect any stuff to happen because they're all on the beach. Well, we do have that to deal with the government. They do like their long vacations and their big fat paychecks. And
yeah, that's what Steve Pachenik said. He said it's too much paperwork to kill you, for the elite, but also, I guess once you work for them, even if you wake up to do the right thing, they almost see you like as their property. Because I've seen when you've been a federal agent or even local police, whatever, you do the right thing, they really are scared of that because more people might follow that example. I think that's why they tried to put you in prison.
Yeah, they definitely want to set an example and scare away everyone else. And of course, with Sherry, they did that, but thankfully, Sherry's too strong for them, and I'm sure her Christian faith is what makes that happen. And God bless her, and I'm just so, I hope people will get out there and help Sherry. We're all out there fighting, the tax gladiators out here, but Sherry's taken the biggest hit for sure. And I just hope people will go to sherrypeeljackson.org and help the lady out. I mean, she's been putting her own time and her own money in this. And you know what lost earnings are over a 3 and 4 and 5 year period? She needs our help. And
she does. And I'm going to order the book myself today. I've got the advanced copy here, but I'm going to buy the beautiful hard copy there as well. In fact, Sherry, briefly, tell people about the new book that's coming out and what it deals with.
Actually, there are 4 of them. I was very busy in prison. I made sure that I set a standard. I didn't play around and play cards and watch television. I wrote. So
sure, you've got 3 that are Christian books, but then you've also got the IRS one, right?
Right. Questions people ask about prison life. There are a lot of people that have no clue what really goes on in prison. And I was in a prison camp, and I was also in an FCI, a Federal Correctional Institute, where the murderers are. I was in both places. So I answered several questions. My friends and family got together since they were asking me so many questions anyway. And I recorded them in a book. It's called Questions People Ask About Prison Life, Answers from a Former Political Prisoner. And my other book, Wrongly Convicted, is mostly my story, but I talk about some of the other women that were in prison. And I have a couple of other books that I wrote there. So all of those are coming out all at the same time. And there's a discount for all 4, actually.
All right, I want to go to some calls here. We're going to get you back on when they're officially out. In fact, maybe we can carry them at Infowars.com. But the point here is all of the craziness is now coming out. The weird sexual stuff by the people at Homeland Security, the Fast and Furious, the IRS giving people fake tax IDs and ordered to keep doing it, and then blaming it on the citizens who they attach the IDs to. I mean, just inventing evil. And I'm told by my whistleblowers here in Austin, where this all broke last week, that everybody's really freaking out now, realizing, wow, we do collect money for offshore banks. It is all a fraud. And so I see a crisis of conscience. What do you make of all these new reports coming out, new depths of evil?
I think it's like a horror movie. To me, they're getting more bold and brazen, and I don't know how the people on the inside are reacting within the IRS. The people that I talked to within the prison system, their sympathy was with me, but they wanted to keep their job, so they kept their mouths closed. And I don't know, you probably know some insiders that are talking more, but I don't know how some of them can sleep at night. I just don't.
Well, they told me they're ordered now retroactively. It's not even a law. It's rulings to take 70+% of the money they're now being told to target is just middle class and blue collar retirees, where they've got savings And then they tell them, well, 5 years ago, we really changed the rules. So penalties and interest, we want $1 million on $200,000 you pulled out of your 401k, and then they're taking their houses. And
the poor people don't have any money. The wealthy people have lots of loopholes, and they can hire high-powered attorneys. So who's left? Those of us that are in the middle class. We are the low-hanging fruit on the tree, and that's what they're going for. And those are the people that have the fewer resources. They don't have the money to go and get an attorney like Andy.
Or they're so trusting in the system, they think, well, okay, just take everything I got. Joe, I mean, what do you think of all this evil coming out in the open now?
I think it's a direct result, Alex, of hard work. Like people like Sherry. Sherry Jackson gets people's attention, and that's why she became a target. And she's not going to stop getting people's attention, and now probably hit the stratosphere. Having done the sacrifices that she's done. But I think what's happening is that reverberation, it gets through there. Like you said, the IRS says, don't listen to him, and then everyone listens. They used to say the same about Irwin Schiff when he was had the show in Las Vegas. The more that they try to put a lid on it, the worse it becomes. So I think it's, we're doing the right thing and we're doing a good thing, and we just may not see the results of it.
Sure. Well, I mean, take Sandusky and the fact that the whole echelon at the top of the school was involved as a bunch of pedophiles. Now it's coming out. I mean, and good people or average people can't even imagine this, but the people at the top are a bunch of demons.
They are, and unfortunately, the government gets way too much credit, in the jury box and everywhere in the voting booth. And the fact is, they don't deserve the kind of credit that they're being given. And people need to wake up. And you, Alex, you say this all the time. They think you're so stupid. Okay, that is so apropos to what the government really thinks of the American people. And I mean, do you want to be taken for a fool over and over again? I don't, and I'm hoping you won't either.
Well, they've tried to put you in prison, and then they learned from your case to put Sherry in prison and so many others. It's just, none of us are safe when innocent men and women can be thrown behind bars, folks, for their free speech, like Irwin Schiff. Peter Schiff's father wrote a book, and they said, quit selling it, or you're going to jail. And he said, I'm not. They said, all right, basically, the rest of your life in prison. I mean, this is what people are doing so you can have info. Let's talk to Richard in Texas, and then we'll go to Andy. Richard, you're on the air. Quick question for our guest.
Thanks for taking my call. Yeah, I want to know how she feels about clawing back the clergy response preachers, reverends, pastors, and getting them to help her in her quest to educate the public about the IRS and the Federal Reserve. I've been calling different shows trying to get them to not necessarily have a contest, but just having your audience, since it's international, call all the preachers, clergy, and literally claw them back like we're trying to claw back the TARP money. If we claw back some of those preachers, her job would be a lot easier. Mr. Jones, your job would be a lot easier, and all the rest of the GC.
No, you're right. I mean, I saw a video some guy sent me saying, Romans 13, do whatever government says. Well, that's not even what the Bible says. And these churches will not talk about this because most of them aren't churches. They're 501c3 creatures of the IRS. Sherry?
That's right. Richard, that's a good question. And before my prison experience, I did try to get in touch with some pastors. There were very few of them that were willing to go beyond the regular information that they wanted to put out. I talked to one, and he said, I'm not going to walk that line. This information is true, but again, there's that 501c3. And the 501c3 has put the government over God. So has the incorporation. And Peter Kershaw has a wonderful book out called In Caesar's Grip. And it talks about how churches, unbeknownst to them in the beginning, have gotten incorporated, gotten the 501c3, and they're muffled.
Let's go to Andy in Alabama, then David, Perry, Corey, Jim. You're on the air with Sherry Pill Jackson and Joe Bannister. Both been politically persecuted for working for the IRS and exposing the fact that it is a fraud. Let's go ahead. Andy, listening on XM 166. You're on the air. Go ahead.
Good afternoon. Thanks, Rick. I'm a healthcare provider. I work for one of the nation's largest healthcare corporations. And like so many other millions of Americans that work for corporations, has payroll departments that automatically take taxes out of your check. There's so many of us that are aware of this and are willing to stand up. But, being subject to these corporate policies to, follow these, quote, regulations, I mean, I don't see any other way out of it.
Yeah, that's the big problem with mega corporations is they now say you have to take all these vaccines or you're fired. You have to take all these drug tests. These jobs are prisons. Sherry, Joe?
Well, I think Andy is actually talking about the withholding. And
Yeah.
when you do work for a big corporation, Andy, there's nothing you can do. I have friends that also work for corporations, and they said, well, right now I can't go out on my own. Some people actually may quit, and if they have a skill, they can start their own business and redirect their resources to...
Sure. Well, I knew you were talking about withholding. I'm just saying in general, that's why they want to shut down. Are you guys seeing the phenomenon of shutting down all the mom and pops everywhere?
Yes. Yes. And that's a shame, because those are the people that we need to be supporting, not the corporations. Most of them aren't even in the country anymore.
Oh, they're all globalists, the big ones, yeah. Thank you, Andy. Great points. Joe, any comments on what he said?
Just a couple things I can think of. If you go to truthattack.org and the pre-induction physical, Tom Cryer, the deceased attorney, he gives people a good way to kind of look at their situation and whether they're going to butt up against the IRS or whether they're better off just paying the mafia to not break their legs and then supporting InfoWars, supporting Sherry Peel Jackson.
Yeah, that's what we do. You've got to, we should do a whole show on Mr. Cryer. He beat the IRS in court. Great guy, now gone on to heaven.
Yeah, so there is some things people can do. They can still help those that are on the front lines. We've already made our decision. Don't necessarily fall on the sword yourselves. Support the front lines with a donation now and then. I mean, you can still do a lot.
Absolutely support you guys. You've been through everything. That's how we can back folks up. David in Oklahoma, quick question before we go to break. Go ahead. Come on, David. Yeah, he's gone. Let's jam in Perry in Arizona. Quick question, Perry.
How are you today?
Good. Go ahead.
I am proud to say I have not paid individual federal or state income taxes, Social Security, Medicare since the late 80s. And I had 2 IRS agents visit me in 2007. And they were very nice, and we talked in my driveway, and I recorded it, and I answered every question with a question. I never gave them jurisdiction, and I haven't heard a word from them since.
Yeah, that's why they're trying to get SWAT teams now to just beat you up so you're scared and pay the private banks. But thank you so much for the call. I know a lot of people that are out of the system for years and just don't do anything anymore. They're done. I mean, the illegal aliens do that. Why shouldn't we? Any comments on that, Sherry?
It's ridiculous what they're doing. They're taking the money from us and giving it to them. That's what they're doing.
Well, the globalists hate this country. Anything they can do to destroy it, they do it. We're going to come right back and do 5 more minutes of Overdrive with our guest. We're going to talk to Jim. We have Joe Bannister, former Treasury agent, who spoke out against the fact that it's all a fraud at the IRS, who they tried to put in prison, but jury found him not guilty. Sherry Peel Jackson was a former criminal investigator who spoke out and was part of films and full-page ads in USA Today. They SWAT-teamed her, kangaroo courted her, and sent her to prison for 3 years. She's got a new book coming out next month. And pre-order it at her site, sherrypeeljackson.org. These are amazing people because we stand on their shoulders, just like we stand on our forebears' shoulders. And look, freedom is not given. It's taken. It's demanded. We've got to stop being such pushovers. Let's go to Jim in Minnesota. You're on the air with our guest. Go ahead.
Yes, we are being blackmailed. Okay, now I would like to ask a question. Are you aware that Social Security numbers are only to be applied for pursuant to order and notice? And that when we apply for them in the absence of order and notice, we've committed a fraud. We are impersonating government officers and employees. Social Security numbers are only mandated for U.S. government officers and employees.
Sure, what they do is they trick you into taking one, and then contractually you go into the banking system who's holding the money in these pensions but really has already spent it. But you get into all the legalese, they don't care. They're enforcing it all at the point of machine guns. Comments from our guest.
Yeah, Jim, I have 2 children, and when I gave birth, the hospital sent slave surveillance numbers to my house. So I sent them back, and until I went to prison, my children did not have slave surveillance numbers. Unfortunately, when I was gone, they got driver's licenses and other things.
And again, they said under law, the card used to say it, Till a few years ago, it says not to be used except for the program. The slave surveillance number is the whole control grid system.
I wrote them, and they said, well, no, you're right. It says it's not to be used for identification, but now so many corporations and banks require it, and we can't tell them that they can't make you give it to them to get services from them. So what the Social Security Administration is saying is, yeah, it's not supposed to be used, but if someone asks you for it, if you want the privilege that they're going to give you, then you have to give it.
And they make citizens jump through 100 hoops. The illegals are above the law. Joe Bannister comments on that.
Well, basically, with all due respect to his comments about the legalities of it, we have to look at the realities first.
Is it force majeure? Force majeure? I mean, it's just they're just doing it.
Yeah, de facto versus de jure, and basically, the reality is try functioning without one. I'm not saying to not try to do that from that angle too, but again, it's about educating people and letting them understand that just because someone went to prison, I guess the entire Christian religion would have to disintegrate because Jesus went to prison, St. Paul went to prison. I mean, pretty much all of them went to prison.
But now they teach this doctrine of if you're a Christian and the government tells you to murder babies, do it. Just do whatever it says, Romans 13, out of context, when the whole Bible is about fighting that. Thank you for the call, Jim. One last caller. Corey in Texas, quick question.
Hey, how's it going?
Good.
Pleasure to be on the show. Real quick, I know we're running out of time, but Ms. Jackson, first of all, I just wanted to say that I'm truly sorry you had to go to jail for 3 years, prison for 3 years, and be away from your children for doing what's right. My question is, I'm all about bringing the fight, but how do we make a peaceful resistance against an organization like the IRS? If we don't pay our taxes, we go to jail.
Well, that's not true. More and more people are getting out of the system. You just keep exposing them. You keep exposing they're fraudulent. I mean, it's happening. You discredit the entire system. I appreciate your calls. Listen, I want to thank both of you for coming on the show. Joe Bannister is going to be in studio on Friday here in Austin, Texas with us, where we originate from. And SherryPeelJackson.org is where you can get her book. Thank you, Sherry, for all you've done, and God bless you.
Thank you for having me, Alex.
You bet.
Thank you, Alex.
Thank you, Joe. See you Friday. All right, we're out of time for this transmission. Retransmission starts now, and then InfoWars Nightly News starts tonight. They are putting the screws down. They are trying to censor us. They're trying to keep us from reaching the public because the truth is powerful.
Visit InfoWars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. When you're on the site, you can also tune in 24 hours a day to my daily radio broadcast. There's also a free iPhone app to listen to the syndicated radio show when and where you want.